Hi, I'm Hannah. Welcome to my channel, Mostly Paper Crafts. I'm excited to share some card inspiration with you from the August 2024 Hero Studio. So first I'm going to show you very briefly what was included in this month's kit. We got some hero wax along with a tool to spread it. I've never used that product before. We've got a few fancy dies here and some inks. I'm really excited about these reactive glitz inks. I've never used anything like that before. A couple of reactive ink cubes, a fancy stencil here that has a lot of different leafy and vine designs. We've got coordinating dies to go with all of these stamps here, fun sentiments and a bunch of fun images, and you can see how the layering stamps fit together. I did pull in a few other Hero Art supplies for these cards. These fancy dies are called the Tropical Florals fancy dies. I got these a few years ago. This cover plate, I don't have the packaging for it anymore, so I don't remember the name of that. I've got a big bold print stamp. This is the Tropical Foliage bold print, and then an old My Monthly Hero kit. I don't know what month or year this was. This was several years ago. This has some great jungle critters and sentiments in it, and I use that as well. For my first card, this one is really simple. It's just got a few elements. First of all, I have a strip of the washi paper. I have a couple of die cuts. I use the dies from the studio. The stamp is from the studio. That's layered up a couple times for some dimension. And this shiny green, I put the hero wax onto some paper and I let that dry, and then I die cut out of it, and I thought that turned out really neat. For my second card, I used the layering stamps from the studio, as well as a couple of stamps from that older My Monthly Hero kit. So the monkey and the branch and the Stay Wild, those are from that older kit. I really liked the dark green on top of this reactive glitz. This was so much fun. I played around with this ink quite a lot. So this is the lighter green there. The perfect color to go with it wasn't a Hero Arts ink, but it was a Stampin' Up! One. Really like how that turned out. The splatters are this same fruit punch that I used for the stamping of the florals. For my next card, I did use one of the add-ons for this month, which was that awesome stencil. And again, I used the reactive glitz, that green ink that came in the kit. So this is black cardstock, and then I did direct ink to paper over that to get enough ink onto the paper to be able to blend. And then I took my brush and I blended over the stencil, and I thought that that gave that a really nice dramatic look. We've got a gold panel in the back, some black glitter strips just to accent that. And then the Have a Wild Birthday is one of the sentiments from the studio. I did go over my black ink with a gold pen just to give that a little more interest and make it go with the rest of the gold on the card. I used that stencil again for the next card, and I was just playing around with some different techniques. What I did for this one is I inked over the stencil, and then I used this bold print with a Versamark ink over my stenciling, and then I heat embossed that so you can see that design kind of glossy there. And then I inked over that to do a resist technique, and that's what gave us this leafy texture there. We've got a couple of die cuts from this month's studio, as well as that sentiment there, a couple of gems, and a nice white border on either side. Now, for this next card, I really loved the way that this background turned out. I used that same bold print. I was working on black cardstock, and again with this really fun reactive glitz ink, and I stamped it. I stamped the cling stamp with this ink, and then I used clear embossing ink And then I went direct to paper with this ink over top. So there actually is that ink over the whole thing, but you can still see this textured design in there from where I heat embossed it. And I really didn't want to cover it up because I loved the shine. I love the way that it comes out. It has a really cool texture. These little gold strips are just stickers. I've got this popped up on some foam to give it some dimension. Now, I did think it would be cool to cut out some of the leaves in gold and layer them over this. So put a few down at the bottom and a couple up at the top. I think that would look really nice. But I loved it just the way it was, so I left it. So this is that cling, and I wanted to show you a couple more things I did with it. After I stamped this background, there was obviously ink left on the stamp, so I sprayed it with some water and I took another print of this. And so this is what that first print looked like, and when I pulled it, I could see there was still a little more, mostly just the mica, and I was able to get this print as well. Continuing to play with the inks, I did direct to paper after I die cut these with the same reactive glitz Byzantine green. This is also direct to paper with that same color. For this strip, I did horizontal and vertical stripes with it. It kind of has a canvas texture. And then for my background, I did some ink smushing. So the inks that were included were all reactive inks. So I had just done some smushing with all of the different colors on a glass mat, and that's how I did my background. Then I did some stamping with the different greens, and I love all of the texture I was able to achieve on this card. Playing around again, this background is also ink smushed from the same session as this one, but you can see things turned out a little different here. I used the stencil from the studio to get my palm tree. I used the hero wax that was included and actually just used my finger there. And then I went in and I added some wax just around my panel. This is a two-tone spray that was included in a previous My Monthly Hero kit. That gave us a little bit more color and texture there. These are the dies that cut out the stamped birds, but I didn't stamp them. I actually just used this ink on top of those to give them kind of a pink silhouette. Still playing with that ink on the next card. So I used that cover plate I showed you at the beginning, cut out of black. I did direct to paper with that Byzantine green reactive ink over that. And you know, it's really just the mica in it that shows up, because I did the same thing with pink and it's almost exactly the same. You really can't tell that it's green, but I like the shine that we get from that. The background is the washi paper, and then these leaves were cut out of a paper that I put the hero wax on. So that gives them that nice sheen and shine. I love this design with all of the different elements from this month's studio. The birds are adorable. I really love the look of the layering stamps. This water is also from the studio. I did use Wink of Stella to give that some nice shine. Did some ink blending in the background just to kind of finish it off. And I used a die from Spellbinders to cut out this panel, and I really like the way that it gives that impression around the outside and then just that thin white border. Very simple card for my next design. This time the washi is actually on black, and it looks different than it does on white. So it's a lot darker because the washi is translucent, so you can see the difference there. But what I did is I actually took the washi cutout, so this is on black, and I put it on white. So the leaf here is several layers thick of white die cuts, and then the washi is on the white. So it looks like a totally different shade, even though it matches up with the design in the background. And I really like the way that that came together. I didn't think this card needed anything else. For my 11th card, this time I used an arch die to get my panel here. The elephants are from this studio, and then my plan was I was going to use a mirror stamping technique to get their reflection in the water. Well, for some reason, my mirror stamping just was not working out well at all. So what I ended up doing is stamping the elephants on the back of this panel and underneath. So if I flipped this panel over, you would see this same stamp down here. And then I went to a window where I had great lighting, and then I just kind of traced around it and colored them in. So I really wasn't able to get the effect I was going for with the mirror stamping. I'm not sure what was wrong with my technique, but I'll have to try again sometime. But I really like having their reflection in the water. And then we just have a bunch of white die cuts here to give the bottom a little bit more interest. This is my last card for this month's studio. This combines a lot of stamps and the stencil and the die cuts, lots of elements from this month's studio. And I think all of the colors of ink here were included. Yep. All of these, everything was included in this month's studio other than the gems, which I added from my stash. And I just think this does a great job embodying what this kit can do. I'm just going to flip through these cards one more time. I had so much fun playing with this month's studio. I think that these cards do a great job of showcasing a lot of the different things that you can do with the components, but there are so many more possibilities. I have so many more ideas using mixed media techniques, and I really didn't do a ton of stamping. I would love to do some more stamping and play around more with different colors, different color palettes. I just don't have any more time. I'm moving on to the next project, but so much fun. I can't wait for next month's studio. It is a Halloween theme, and you know I love Halloween. Hope you have a wonderful day, got some great inspiration, and go make something beautiful.